Following God can be tough at times because he calls us to deny ourselves and deny our flesh. Sometimes people will reject God because they're not willing to follow the commandments or the rules. Now, what rules are we talking about here? Because some Christian rules are awesome, like love your neighbor or give rather than want to receive. But as soon as something like adultery or the abuse of substances comes into play, a lot of people will say, oh, well, I have my freedom, so I should be able to do that. Why would you follow a worldview that gives such strict rules about certain things and doesn't allow you to do what you want? Especially given that the Bible mentions freedom so many times and being freed through Christ so many times, it doesn't make sense that you're not allowed to do whatever you want if Christ gives you freedom, right? Well, give me a couple minutes and I'm going to blow your mind. Always remember what I'm about to say right here. Being able to do whatever you want with no repercussions is actually the exact opposite of freedom. Wait, how is that possible? I'll say it one more time. Being able to do everything that you want with no repercussions is the complete antithesis to freedom. Now, how is that possible? Consider Galatians 5:1 or John 8:16. It's clear that Jesus' message is true freedom and the complete breakage of bondage. In Galatians, Paul writes, "Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by the yoke of slavery." 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 16 says, "Live as free people, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil." 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 12 says, "I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything." Wow. That verse is incredibly insightful and one of my favorite verses in the entire Bible. Even if you don't believe, we have free will to either be constructive and life-giving or destructive with our free will. But you have freedom to choose either one, right? Well, that's true, I guess. Well, let's ask ourselves this essential question. What constitutes a free choice? Well, it's something where you can choose either yes or no, to do it or not to do it, absolutely freely without being tied down or held down by anything. So if somebody puts a gun at your head and says you have to do something, you don't have a free choice because you're being coerced into it. So a free choice would be something you can either choose one or the other, and there's nothing swaying you to either side. When Paul says the words mastered by something, that essentially means that something has control over you. It means that that thing influences your decisions. Now, what Paul is saying here also is that people are actually slaves to a lot of things, and you may not even realize it. Sex, drugs, unhealthy foods, jealousy, pornography, and a very popular one, people's opinions, are things that lock people down and control them and master them. People are slaves to these things. But let me blow your mind again. Because of your attachment to things of this world, like the things I just mentioned, a majority of your choices are already made for you. You're predictable. You may think you have the ultimate choice, but unless you're putting God above everything, you don't at all. Because you're making it seem to yourself like these temporary things matter. You're giving them so much control over you, despite that not giving you any benefits whatsoever besides suffering and the lack of free choice. God's rules are perfect and give you freedom because you're actually chained down by things of this world that influence all of your choices. And God is saying that if you put him above all those things, he'll break you free and actually give you a freedom of choice to make a decision that is right with God. Lots of people, maybe even including you, are convinced that they are in control of their destiny. But in reality, the things that they're giving control over them, whether they know it or not, are actually influencing every single choice, and therefore they are not free. How many people do you know, maybe even including yourself, that wouldn't turn down sex if the opportunity arose? How many people wouldn't turn down the abuse of a substance? How many people would not turn down the opportunity to make people like them or make people think that they are super cool? See, those are not free choices, because if you value those things so much that you'll do whatever it takes to make sure you get those things, those choices are already made for you, even if those choices are ultimately going to be at your detriment. And the thing is, sex, drugs, people's opinions, whenever you choose those things over God, you're going to pay the consequences. And not just from God, not just because you're sinning, but because you will face the natural worldly consequences of your actions, because you're valuing things that shouldn't be valued. The devil in your ear is going to convince you that these things are important, to lead you away from the true moral good that is God. The devil is trying to enslave you in these things of the world so that your choices are already predestined to make you end up in destruction. And why I fear for atheists is that they don't believe God exists, which means they don't believe the devil exists. And that's the number one thing that the devil wants you to believe, that he does not exist. Another big lie that the devil wants you to believe is that you're making a totally fine and free choice, when in reality, you are absolutely not. Remember, the devil is not some evil-looking guy with horns and fire around him. The devil is enticing, he's cunning, he's manipulative, he looks nice, he looks desirable, he makes things that are actually going to destroy you look good. That's why we love having people approve of us. That's why we love having premarital sex. That's why we love pornography. That's why we love doing things that are wrong. That's why we love abusing substances to have fun. Because these things look enticing at first, and then you realize they lead you into attachment, addiction, slavery, and ultimately destruction. So ask yourself, what are you mastered by? What are you a slave to? Next time you're going to make a choice, really think about what's influencing you. If you had the free choice, would you still do it? Or are you only doing it because of XYZ? That being said, God calls us against all these things I've just named. His rules are perfect because they break us free from the bondage that is caused by these worldly things. Things that aren't good for you, things that will ultimately destroy you. Only true freedom is with a perfect God. If you go through life without him and don't allow him to break these chains and think that you're in control of your own destiny, you're going to hear the voice of the devil in your ear, and you're going to ignore the voice of God in your ear because you're mastered by things of this world. You're going to think you're fulfilling yourself when in reality, you're actually leading into your own destruction because you cannot make a free choice. So next time you're going to make a decision, really think. Is this a free choice, or am I leaning heavily towards one side because something other than God is pushing me towards that? Thanks for watching. Follow the call to Christ, defend the faith. Please give me a like because I've been freezing in 25-degree weather to bring you this video. And God bless.